Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Searchcast podcast. Today, my guest is John Lincoln, the CEO and co-founder of Ignite Visibility, a winner of the highly coveted Search Engine Land Digital Marketer of the Year award, and the creator of SEO the movie. John, thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Shane. Excited to be here, talk a little bit about some SEO with you today, and thanks for having me on the show.
I think it's really good timing. This week with Google I/O yesterday was wild time, so I'm sure we'll touch on that. Any first impressions on the crazy day of digital marketing yesterday?
Yeah, so I went through everything, and we talked a little bit about this beforehand, and one of the things that really stood out to me rather, is that Google in Google's I/O 2024 they mentioned AI 121 times. So we know what they're focused on, and it's been like that on the ad side for a while, and I think bubbling under the surface for a while, but now it just feels like they're in this big war with ChatGPT, and they just feel like they need to bring it front and center. So that was really what they were showcasing, and they had a lot of cool stuff that they rolled out, which I'm excited to talk through with you.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing was that new character they introduced. That guy that just is hyped up on a bunch of energy drinks or something, running across the stage. That was super interesting. Yeah. So, icebreaker question for you: if you could choose any movie or any TV show, pick a character, think about their character traits. Who would make it either really good or really bad SEO, and why?
Yeah, you prepped me for that question, and I still don't know if I have a good answer for it. The only thing that comes to mind is just SpongeBob SquarePants for some reason, just because my my son's watching that show every day when I get home, and so I end up watching a couple hours a night. And you know what? I think he'd be pretty good. He would be pretty good. He gets to the point, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. So I'm going with SpongeBob.
I
So
think he's a huge culture add to any organization, right? He brings the energy.
yeah,
It's hard not to like that guy. So I love it.
he's a great worker. He's got great work ethic. He loves being at the Krusty Krab. He shows up every day, and he's just happy to be there. So
He's a
I agree with
he's a company
that.
man. He's a he reps his company well. Takes a lot of pride in his work. I agree. I think that's the most unique answer we've got. So I appreciate it. What's your elevator pitch when you're talking to like non-marketers and they're like, you wear many hats as the CEO of Ignite. You guys have a full range of services there, but specifically as an SEO, maybe earlier in your career, what was your pitch for like, what do you do for a living?
Yeah, so for me, I got my roots in SEO and paid media, but what really brought it all together for me was media mix modeling and forecasting. And in 2018, I wrote a book called The Forecaster Method, which the whole purpose of the book was how do you get the highest return for the least cost, right? And I believe the future of digital marketing is who can convert traffic for less. So for me, it's all about weighing the channels against each other, doing forecasting, and really understanding the business model and the things you need to do to move the business forward towards its KPIs and goals. So, I'm an MBA. I taught analytics at the University of California, San Diego Extension program for 9 years. And so for me, it's all about analytics. It's all about forecasting. It's all about return on investment. And a lot of times, SEO is the best channel for that, but not always. So I think if you can build the business model beforehand, make sure that it makes sense to the client, that's a really good place to start. So
I think you have a unique background with Google I/O happening this week, with the AI rolling out, Gemini rolling out to the organic search results, because of that background, in the sense of we don't really know how AI is going to impact the world of digital marketing, specifically on the SEO side, in terms of click through rate, or if your website was very informational, recipe sites, for example, or heavy blog traffic. You don't know how much traffic you're going to lose, even though you might not lose positions just because the real estate's changing. But for you, going back to 2018, reading the forecaster method, you've been really on top of this for a very long time. You've almost predicted the future in that sense, which is something I've always admired about you. So, how do you think reporting is going to change with the understanding that Google's not going to give us Google Search Console data and insights for how these CTRs are impacting organic search, and with the understanding that SEO has always been hard to track in terms of an ROI or a ROAS, however you want to call it, perspectives. How do you think that's going to shift in these next coming months?
Yeah, so reporting and insights is something that I've spent, it's a really big topic, all the way from brand lift studies to third party attribution tools to Google Search Console, the media mix modeling. And where everything is going right now is because we're going to be losing cookie data, because things are going to be going more AI, because Google and all the other platforms are trying to take away controls. Things are changing, and the main change is revenue is the main goal. Revenue is the main goal. That not MQL, not SQL. It's the actual final sale. So the biggest challenge in all digital right now is being able to set that up for a client. And Ignite Visibility is 100% a leader in that. We set up offline conversion tracking. We set up Meta Cappy. When we are doing search engine optimization, say we're optimizing, 1,000 local pages, we're always trying to make sure we're not just looking at things like the micro conversions, but the actual final sale and feeding that back into the system. Now that's different for every industry. If you're in home services versus auto services versus, e-commerce, the revenue's different. But we're going to continue to lose some visibility. At the same time, we're going to lean more into this AI stuff, and we're going to get a huge amount of power coming from these systems. I believe both in the SEO side, like the generative experience, but then also we're already seeing it on the paid media side. So that's kind of the direction things are going, and it's all just about revenue. If you don't actually have the revenue as your KPI, and you're not able to tie that all the way back to all the marketing you're doing, you just got to keep working towards it until you get there. So.
Yeah, I think that's super well said. I think you're spot on. I think keyword rankings and traffic are going to be just only an indicator of success moving forward, and I think every company is going to be forced to figure out whether it's a percentage based like a conversion that's based off a percentage of an estimated average lifetime value, or or sales transaction, whatever it might be. You're going to have to create your own formula at whatever organization you are in. If you can't track it down to the dollar level, that's the only way you're going to be able to prove out your marketing channels, specifically SEO, when it comes to budgeting for the next year. So I think any brands that need that help, and I would definitely recommend Ignite. I've personally worked with them, very solid team. The methodologies you guys have in the playbooks to make it scalable, I think, is also something that you guys do a really, really good job on. So yeah, I'm fascinated. I think this week is crazy. I love reading X, all the different threads on Google I/O, on LinkedIn, the different predictions and stuff like that. Have you got to play with any of the AI overlays at all?
I have a little bit, but not enough, and it's really new. And so I really want to be, cautious about saying like I know everything about it. I really don't, and I've always kind of tried to watch and wait a little bit before I kind of jump in with predictions and things like that. But I do have some insights because I do think I've just spent so much time over the last 9 months inside of ChatGPT 4 and Gemini, and just trying to like play with it and understand how it returns information and why. And so, for me, I think there's a pretty clear graph behind the scenes for how these things are, how the data is collected and how it's served. And I think we're going to see a lot of SEO professionals, working to map that graph and do it by industry. And so that's kind of where my head's at. How about you?
Yeah, the couple of clients that I've been doing some testing on, and it's only been 24 hours, right? So this could change, but I think SEO actually get cemented even more with even more priority than prior. And I say that because if you look at the examples that Google gave, the documentation, I think they gave one that's like a Pilates class. It was like, you know, find me a Pilates class near me that gives a discount for new members or whatever it might be. When it comes to the world of SEO, that's still stuff you need to be adding to your site. You can still use schema. If you Google isn't a mind reader, it's the content still the information still has to be on your website for Google to be able to. They're still crawling, still scraping. They're doing it at a different level than before, but the information is still getting related in the same way. So I've seen that. I think that's number one, right? SEO is not going away. I think it's gonna cement itself, even though it's interesting because we're gonna have less data to report on. But if you're doing call tracking, if you're doing lead form fills, if you're tracking revenue, that's going to be your actual um, live all be all when it comes to SEO. Rankings and traffic are going to be indicators. The other thing is what's interesting is some of the keywords that had featured snippets before AI overlay came out. Google said they're not removing featured snippets, but from what I've seen, the feature snippet is getting replaced with AI, but our sites are still ranking in that number one position. It's just with the multiple, site links in there and the AI in the Gemini layout versus just traditional search. So I'll be curious to see if they keep it up there. It seems like they're not targeting a ton of transactional searches with the overlay yet, because which kind of makes sense, right? That it's a revenue. Google has to drive revenue, and they haven't really figured out a way to monetize it yet. So those are my early findings.
Yeah, I love that. One of the, I think you're spot on. And one of the things that I've been throwing out there for a while now with our team and with clients is I try to kind of wrap things up in a term. I was calling it the Google plug-in strategy. Like, what does it take to plug in to that module in Google? And when you look at something that's served, what are all the references online that create that? A lot of it's the website, a lot of it's backlinks, a lot of it is, maybe a business directory, review sites, social media sites. And then, but the other thing that I think people ignore a lot is Google really does like schema. They were one of the first people to support schema and, the World Wide Web Consortium and all of that. And I think that this could make schema even more important on the site. Really being deliberate about what you're marking up, because if it's fitness and if it's a class and if it has a price and if it happens on a specific day and time, half the time that stuff isn't on the website clearly. If it is clearly, it's hard to tell exactly what it is. And if you put schema on that, think about what a competitive advantage that's going to give to you within generative search, but then also in other areas. And then, that also, if you're running ads, it helps your quality score, right? So I think just giving Google the information that they need and being credible in a good business. I also I feel like Google is looking more at third-party reviews than ever before too. Just what is your general online presence and kind of coming up with a consensus around that. I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel like it's just they're looking for the vibe online a little more. It's kind of interesting. So
Yeah, I think Google, they're in it. They're in a tough spot between helpful content and defining that. It's just so
yeah,
ambiguous right now. So if you look at some of the search results, the people are posting that are just kind of wonky. A lot of oftentimes LinkedIn and Reddit are just killing the number one and two positions, even over for medical terms that used to be WebMD or something like that. So I think Google's looking at those like user engagement metrics, whether it's like social shares or backlinks or whatever, and I think they're kind of confused. I think the algorithm sees it one way, and human beings see it another. I don't think the team at Google has enough manpower to look at it, in terms of manually recreating the search results, which is what the algorithm's for. So I totally agree. I think it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see if the UGC stuff that's been so hot, the local search forums and Reddit, etc., if that starts to get pushed down a little bit now that AI is, first and foremost, or if we're starting to see it doesn't, and it's like AI and then UGC stuff and then traditional search and then the map. And I'm really curious. I think it's going to largely depend, but yeah, what an exciting time to be alive, right?
yeah. I have a hard time. I have a hard time thinking the Reddit and Quora stuff is going to last for very long, but I could be wrong. We'll see.
Yeah, Reddit's super interesting. I know you posted on the digital marketing news of the week. I think it was last week about the Reddit incorporating product ads into their feeds, which is super interesting. I just saw they hired an ex Googler to run that. So there's definitely a partnership there. And one thing I often say on this podcast is, follow the money trail with Google. Google will say a lot of things, but where they actually invest is probably where you should be investing too. So the fact that Google and Reddit have that partnership, I don't know if it goes away soon, but it is very interesting to see how that plays out. Do you, for your clients, are you guys recommending that they do, at least dabble in the Reddit marketing side, or is it kind of like a double edged sword that you're trying to warn them about? How does that work?
So Reddit and Quora and all those sites have been a really interesting area, for a long time. So many people have tried to spam those systems, and they've tried to spam Wikipedia, and just get links from them and things like that. But I think that it's something that, clients and just businesses have to pay attention to now. There's no way that they can't. So for me, it's 100% an element of community management. And, the businesses should have some type of platform that allows them to see the conversation about them online across all the different ecosystems. So not just Reddit, not just Quora, but also all the meta properties, everything that's out there, and then understand the sentiment. Google properties, and then address it. So 100%, we are asking clients to be cognizant of the conversation there. And then if they feel like it's appropriate and they should have a voice there, then they should join and they should be a part of that, and they should be transparent about it being them, and make sure that, they're, joining in on any great conversations and saying thank you. And if it's, not great, making sure they're talking about that too.
Yeah, it's so sticky in the search results right now, and I think if you're a major brand or a product, there's no getting out of it. People probably already started a subreddit about you, right? But if you're like maybe a brick and mortar or smaller operation, it might be something that you try to stay away from, just because anybody can say anything about you, and then once it's out there, it's tough. So unfortunately, there's a lot of sabotage, in a lot of markets. So you just got to be
Yeah.
super careful with it. But if you are going to do it, you got to do it 100%. To your point, it is a community. It is a community. Each individual owns their own community, and the more credibility you have on those sites, the further your feedback goes. So it's super interesting. I'm curious to see what kind of revenue that Reddit generates with these product placements in there. So there's always a way. There's always someone trying to market something somewhere, right?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing interest on Reddit ads from enterprise clients, but not from anything in kind of the mid market or lower market. So, I think they'll have some success there. And, with all that Google traffic coming in and it just being so visible, the ads are going to flow in some way. So, yeah, definitely one to watch.
And then the next thing was search with video. I thought this was super interesting. The fact that it's like basically it's two ways of doing a search now, audio and visually. So I think that's going to be super curious. I don't know if that's a play on Google just trying to sell their glasses or their or whatever, or if people are going to start using that. But that'll be another interesting thing to see if Google gives us any data or insights on how often that's happening, or if it's going to show up in GA4, like what device and queries if you're connecting Search Console and paid. So that'll be another fascinating thing to monitor.
Yeah, the video and circle search are two things that I'm really excited about. And I think I was just kind of trying to think that through a little bit. For the circle for search and the video search, I believe what they're doing there is they are taking whatever you circle or whatever the video, and then they're turning it into a concept, and then they're mapping that concept to a query, right? A search query, and then they're just executing on that same search. And they're able to do that because now they're able to identify whatever's in a video through all the YouTube stuff they've had forever. AI can create a cat for you now, and identify a cat in a video. And they're able to do that based off of knowing what's in images. So, I think, in the reporting and everything, we don't know exactly what we're going to get out of that, other than just, traffic that's coming in from Google. That's probably what it's going to look like. But what I think is the most important is that, I think you'll see a very large shift in like consumer behavior as they're able to search with Circle for Search, and as they're able to search with video over the next 3 to 5 years, because they're going to be able to, do this. They're going to know they can do it, and then they're going to stop putting in search things. And I actually think it'll be bigger than all the hype that was, 5 or 10 years ago around voice search. Everybody thought everything was going to be voice. I think that hit kind of like a plateau. So this really could be the future. And so businesses need more multimedia than ever before. And, whether it's on your blog posts, whether it's on your product pages, whether it's just, creating videos, addressing all the things that your customers are looking for, it's so important. And are you thinking about it kind of the same way, Shane?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it shouldn't really come as a huge surprise if you talk to any of the Google reps on the paid search side. They've been promoting display YouTube for the last 2 years, like really heavily. So Google is big data at the end of the day. So I think obviously the creation of different elements to do it is good, but they have such a massive database, and there's no reason that Google shouldn't have the best AI. So it's very interesting to see how this is playing out with ChatGPT. It's like one does something newsworthy, Google tries to top it, back and forth, back and forth. From the purely SEO side of things, I think visuals are super important. When Google was testing Bard early on and Gemini early on, almost every single localized search, um, the near me's or the city, the branded that showed the GBP pins, almost everyone had at least an image on that page, and it wasn't often the hero image. It was a different image deeper on the page. So I think they are looking for context clues on there. I think some of the older SEO tactics might still kind of help in that sense. Where remember you used to go back in the day and you take an image and you put it on different image sites like Imager and Flickr and PhotoBucket and all those different things, and you just all the NAP citations, you'd have the different images in there. Seems like Google is kind of looking at that image like, oh, this is kind of a viral image for this brand. Maybe we should stick that one there, depending on what people are searching. So I'm sure that'll improve over time. But I did notice that from time to time when we were testing in before it was actually live on the internet.
Yeah, all pattern recognition and consistency generally with this side of things. So the more that story is like congruent, whether it be images, whether it be videos, whether it be, and then having that congruent multimedia distributed across different areas, will lead to similar query results. I think that's kind of the message there is. Not even just thinking multimedia on your own site, but how can you have that same multimedia story distributed across the web, and then that's just going to funnel everything back to the same place that you want to push them. So I agree with that.
Do you think local search is going to change much in terms of the map pack? Do you have a prediction there? Do you think it's going to stay pretty standard, or do you think it's all going to go into the geo? And
I
they're testing
think
both early on.
Yeah, Google is just so heavily invested in Google business profiles and LSAs, and I really think they're going to push the LSA product more and more and push people into the Google business profiles more and more. Anything they can do to minimize websites and maximize Google products for local businesses will be, good for that business unit. So, and also really, in just last week, they made a change where now you can run Performance Max ads for the first time to a Google website where you couldn't before. So all the platforms are trying to do everything they can to keep everything in their ecosystem, and they've been working on this for a really long time. So they're 100% going to do everything they can to keep Google business profiles front and center, which I'm really happy about because we do a ton of work around that. So that's what I'm thinking, and you probably see the websites, change in the way that they're rendered, but I don't think they'll ever fully get rid of them because there's a balance that they kind of have to keep in order to be, I think, ethical in some way, and with the history of Google. So
My prediction is that a lot of people outside of digital marketers don't really understand Gemini, and they're not really using it. So, like
yeah,
for example, my parents probably have no idea what's going on with some of the search results right now. Like, what is this? Why can't I click on anything?
yeah,
So I
and they
think,
don't care at all either.
yeah, they really don't. They probably think it's broken right now, and they're gonna call me like, "Can you fix this?" And I'm gonna tell them that no, I can't. But no, I think that the Google Map Pack, I think they're gonna continue with their testing. I wouldn't be surprised if the Google Map Pack ends up in Geo, because it was in there during the early signs of testing for Bard,
Yeah.
and I think that's the only way that they're going to get mass consumer demand to switch to that Geo stuff. Like if they want to make it a bigger part of search, I also could see them testing it above the fold like it is now, but I can see them eventually putting it down and replacing the people also ask with just the Geo stuff. So those are my two predictions. We'll see if any of them come true. But I just don't. I don't. What do you think? Do you think that the general population is going to adapt to generative engine searches?
Well, I like your prediction on getting rid of the people also ask, and there's this whole kind of middle area there that I don't think is very very valuable, and people probably don't use. So at some point, probably their testing will show that. But I can tell you, I have very people who are very close to me. They won't use AI at all. They hate it. They absolutely hate it. And I think for good reason, I mean, they don't fully understand it. They don't trust the large language, model of, taking their data. And I got to tell you, I really respect that. Like, I respect a lot of people who don't want to be a part of some of this stuff on some level. I do. I mean, like I did a post earlier on LinkedIn today. I had a genuine question about, do you like following AI influencers? You're seeing like, I know it's a completely different topic, but you see, influencers now that are just, completely fake, right? So this whole world of AI, there's people who will participate and won't. And when ChatGPT launches their new search engine, I think there'd be some people who don't want to be a part of that either. At the end of the day, I think most people, who outside of people like us who we do this for a living, they just kind of want to get some information and get a search result and get some direction somewhere, And so it's been interesting to see how fast things have evolved because of this war between these two businesses, where they've pushed all this stuff out so fast. In many cases, faster, than maybe made a lot of sense without proper testing. But well, at the end of the day, there'll be some good and bad that comes out of it, and I don't think everybody's going to adopt it. So
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Is obviously Google is a very profitable company most of the time, and as an SEO person, I'm a little biased, right? But I'm always like, paid search is always encroaching on our territory. First
yeah,
it was just the three, and then it was the sponsored ads in the map pack, and then now there's LSA that look almost identical to GBP, and yeah, it'll be very curious to see how much further that that struggle evolves. But I think my other prediction too is I think if anything, I think the search with video might outlast the AI overlay. I can just see, a couple years from now, 5 years from now, where your screens on your car have touch screen. And it's like, oh, what is that? You just circle it and then you just Google it, right? And it just boom,
yeah.
it's done. And it's gonna feel like typing something on your phone is like archaic. Like you're really gonna type, what time does this movie start? When you could just point to the theater and ask the question verbally without touching anything. So I think that's super fascinating. And who knows? A week from now, we could be having a totally different conversation, right? Google could drop another nugget for us. I know I've seen a lot of LinkedIn posts, people specifically tagging Google and kind of saying like, please give us Google Search Insights. Like, we really, really, or Google Search Console Insights. We really need this. I'm one of those people. Cool, John. I mean, I think this is still so new. We don't have a ton of case studies or anything yet, obviously. But I'd love to have this conversation with you in a month from now and figure out where we should be investing our time and resources. I'll definitely be following digital marketing this week. I know you kind of give a lot of helpful tips there. Anything else?
No, thanks for having me on today. And, I think just in general, the future of digital is bright and evolving, and there's just so many different ways to do things nowadays. And search will always be important. I just think it's changing with generative, AI experiences, and then it's just more holistic than ever before. It's every site matters, social media matters, and it's going to be really really fun and better for brands now that they're thinking really around the big picture. So can't say enough good things about you, Shane. This guy's an awesome SEO, everybody who's watching. So just you're following a good person, and thanks for having me on today, Shane. So
I appreciate it, John. Likewise.